there is something wrong with your moral barometer if you're anti-Israel. It is one of the... And it has to be clear that that's the case. There is something wrong. Now the question becomes, why is this moral failing overwhelmingly left of center and not right of center in the United States and Western Europe? Do you know that when a conservative government takes over, Harper in Canada, or any other example, whether it's France or whether it's Spain or virtually any country, the country immediately becomes more pro-Israel? And under Aznar versus Zapatero in Spain, the same exact thing. It doesn't matter. As soon as the left takes over, and I don't mean far left communist, just the left, it becomes far more anti-Israel. And on the other hand, like Harper's Canada, which was the first to walk out when Ahmadinejad spoke, they in fact are very much more pro-Israel than they were under the liberal government, the liberal administration in Canada. Everyone who calls himself a liberal has to ask this question: why, on the most obvious moral litmus test of our time, is the left an abject failure? Why is the New York Times editorial page so morally weak on Israel, and the Wall Street Journal's editorial page is so morally strong on Israel? This is a cognitive dissonance that Jews have to understand. And let me tell you what I tell Jewish audiences around North America. There is and should be a cognitive dissonance. Certainly since 9/11, a lot of Jews have felt this, but they want to dismiss it. And here it is. That which we Jews have most trusted have turned out to be the most difficult, the most oppositional to everything we stand for with regard to Israel. And that the groups we least trusted turn out to be our greatest friends. Who was it that we most trusted? The university. The university is the center of anti-Israel activity in the United States of America and in Canada and elsewhere. And who have turned out to be our best friends? And I know we'll discuss this, and this is the one thing I really want to convince everyone watching and listening of. Our best friends turn out to be not just conservatives, but Christians. And this shocks Jews because Jews are raised on the Inquisition and the Holocaust as if the Holocaust was a Christian phenomenon as opposed to a Nazi phenomenon. But whatever the reason, and I wrote a book on anti-Semitism, and I know about Christian anti-Semitism in Europe, but in America, America has been the most blessed land the Jewish people have ever lived in, and it is thanks to the Christians who founded it and who keep Israel alive today.
I want to start out by acknowledging that there's nothing inherently liberal or conservative about Judaism or about Jewish values. Judaism is always in tension. The paradigm of Jewish values are Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai fighting with each other from a liberal conservative perspective. You can be a good Jew and a good conservative, and a good Jew and a good liberal. I want to see there be a lot of Jewish conservatives. That's a very good thing. I would never like to see any party or any group take Jews for granted. So I'm delighted that Dennis Prager is a Jewish conservative who supports Israel. But I hope you will appreciate how important it is for there to be liberals who support Israel and who make the liberal case for Israel. How important it is to make sure that my friends, the late Ted Kennedy, with whom I worked so closely on issues of Soviet Jewry and issues of support for Israel, who never wavered on support for Israel. Bill Clinton, when she was a senator, Hillary Clinton. I'm keeping an open mind about her role as Secretary of State. Al Gore, Barney Frank, so many others, hopefully Barack Obama, and that too remains to be seen. I see part of my job, and what I want to talk about is both the moral case for liberalism and the tactical case for liberalism. I see my job as putting pressure on liberals to accept Dennis Prager's point of view that it is immoral not to support Israel, at least in general. And it's very important to have liberals make that case, particularly on college campuses. I spoke at Yale last night to a full audience of many skeptics who believe that if you're to be pro-Israel, you must be Dennis Prager, or you must support the Christian right, or you must be generally a conservative. It's very hard to make the conservative case to young college students. I make the liberal case for Israel to college students, and I want to make sure I can continue to make that. Look, I agree with you that people like Noam Chomsky and Norman Finkelstein and many of the European, quote, leftists are an abomination. And I spend my time attacking them. By the way, I think so was Pat Buchanan, and so did, I think, was Robert Novick when he was alive, in their unalterable opposition to everything Israeli. I was not happy about the George Bush I administration, nor was I happy about Secretary of State Baker. We have friends and enemies on all sides of the political spectrum. The old State Department were conservatives, oil interests, the conservatives who oppose Israel. My point is that it's so important to preserve basic liberal values. Many Jews will do it. Even if one doesn't accept it morally, pragmatically, 82% of Jews identify themselves as liberals and supported Barack Obama. I refuse to give up on them. I refuse to allow Noam Chomsky to become the spokesperson for liberalism in America. First of all, Noam Chomsky hates liberals. He is a radical extremist. Like most radical extremists, his real enemies are liberals. I am probably his most hated opponent because I am a liberal who supports Israel. He agrees with Dennis Prager, by the way. He says you have to be a conservative or a member of the Christian right to really, really support Israel. And therefore, he argues, because you students are not conservatives and you're not supporters of the Christian right, and you do believe in separation of church and state, ipso facto it follows you should not support Israel, you should not support moderate Israelis, you should in fact support Hamas and Hezbollah and extremists. I won't let him win that debate, and I must remain a liberal tactically to make sure I can continue that debate.